Thank you very much for everyone that is connecting now to this. This is actually a meeting. It's not a webinar. It's a meeting of the Education and Training Working Group. We have the technical director, Dr. Kalisinski, and the idea of this meeting was to go back to the proposals in the workshop in Porto a few months ago. The main proposal was the development or the creation of a fellowship in pediatric transplantation. And also we discussed about escalating the local courses to TransplantChild courses, the courses that we are all doing in our centers in transplantation. So the first one, we have discussed this course of microsurgery that we have been doing for 3 years now. And we propose to do it a TransplantChild course, and we already have scheduled it for October 2023. This would be probably the first course, unless anybody else propose one course for TransplantChild. We have 3 different parts: a basic model that people just need to do microsurgery sutures in a plastic model. Probably for people that are familiar with microsurgery, we can avoid that part. This is something to discuss. And we can also divide the course in a basic part and a specialized part. But anyway, this is the course as we have it now. The basic model, then the transition model is to do suture, microsurgical suture in vessels that we have in the fridge from previous experiments, mostly aortas, that are very easily to manage, and you can do end-to-end anastomosis, end-to-side anastomosis, as you can see in the screen in the left side. By the way, this is Dr. Marek in the right side of the screen. And we finally have the experimental model. The idea of this course is to provide the attendees with a specific model that they want. I mean, if they are people from lung transplantation, we will offer the model of lung transplantation. And for people interested in kidney transplantation, we will focus the course, we will individualize the course for kidney transplantation. We have done 2 courses like that in 3 years, and people at the end are not mostly interested in transplantation. They just want to do the suture one time and again in the aorta or the cava. But anyway, the idea was to offer a transplantation model. So back home, they can reproduce this model and do research in transplantation. So this is a 5 days course. The length is 40 hours. 8 of the hours are online. It's from Monday to Friday. Monday is just a presentation of the course and the time to do the online tutorials and classes. The second day, Tuesday, would be for the basic model, and the rest of the day, 3 days, doing really microsurgery. The cost of the course in the past was €900, but this is something also that we can change. The price is very adjusted to the materials and the rats that we have to pay. So this is not something aiming to earn money. This is not business. It's just to pay the material and the rust. And we expect to have the financial support from the exchange program. But we know that now the exchange program have been cancelled for until they have another company covering it. So we are waiting for some information from the European Union. It could be a very good course to start with this proposal. But of course, the issue of the cost of the course should be discussed in advance. So this would be the first one. You can do suggestions. You can say what you think, or we can go ahead with the full presentation and discuss at the end. The next course has been scheduled for May 2024, and this is a course about DCD donation in children. These are the dates, 22 to 26. 22 and 23 would be for coordinators. So this is not only for surgeons. It would be for people in the ICU and coordinators interested in the model that we have here for DCD and doing the simulation course. We have this synthetic model to do the simulation, the life support therapy withdrawal and everything, and we will have the last 2 days to do the experimental model. So in this last part, we will have really the surgeons doing the DCD cannulation and the retrieval and everything. This is the slides that I think this was presented by Dr. Kalisinski. This is the model that they have in Poland for clinical pediatric transplantation. I have done some suggestion for these weeks, for the 73 weeks of basic fellowship in organ transplantation. And my proposal would be that the period for liver transplantation would be 35 weeks. This is attending the number of transplant that we have for the different organs. So 35 weeks for liver, 25 weeks for kidney, 5 for lung, 4 for heart, and 4 for small bowel. Of course, it should be something flexible. I mean, probably in some countries or some centers, they are not going to do never heart or lung or small bowel transplantation. So we should be, this is something that we should offer, but probably this is not something we have to demand people to do. This is not something to be mandatory for them. Liver and kidney, of course, this would be mandatory. And the most important thing to discuss, because the number of weeks can be changed, we can negotiate, and for the very important thing is how we're going to do that. In the bottom you have my suggestion. At least the fellows should do the fellowship in 3 different centers. So this is not, we want people to move, we want people to meet each other around Europe, especially young people. So the idea of this fellowship is not to do it in your own center and not to meet anybody else. On the contrary, the idea, if you move all around Europe, the more centers you visit, then the more experience you are going to have, and the best score you are going to have in your fellowship, of course. But at least 3 different centers. The second rule or the second suggestion is that the fellowship should be paid for the origin center. So it would be the center interested in doing this fellowship who have to pay, but we have to negotiate with Europe if we can do this model of co-financiation that are the ERN are based. So half is paid by the European Union, half by the center. I think this would be a very good formula. And finally, of course, we will need the national and the European accreditation for the course. This is something that we already discussed in Porto also, that we have to apply for the formal accreditation of our fellowship. Again, if you want to discuss about these rules, or you want to discuss about the length of the transplant, you can do it now, or we can go ahead. Anybody willing to discuss? Okay, just one more slide. I don't have any suggestion, as I am not doing bone marrow. I don't have any suggestion for bone marrow training. I would suggest something similar, but we need people from bone marrow transplantation to do this proposal for us. I don't know if anyone from bone marrow is connected, but he or she would be very welcome to do it right now. And the last slides, I don't know if Anna is connected, but was just to recall what she showed us in Porto about the certificate in pediatric nephrology, and this would be the model for us to do the exam for this accreditation in pediatric transplantation. So this is what we want to show you, but especially what I want is to have a discussion about this European fellowship, the rules that I propose, and the length of the rotation, the financial support, and everything. Probably Dr. Kalisinski could be the first to do some feedback.
I think it's a good beginning for the discussion. There are questions concerning accreditation, of course, because I think we should go or by the ERN certification or by some UEMS, which we discussed also in Porto, if we are going to establish some kind of official European specialty in pediatric transplantation. So this is one. This last slide showing the nephrology certificate. We must, I think, balance between the certain specialty knowledge, like nephrology, like hepatology, like hematology, and the place of transplantation in these specialties, because we cannot be specialists in nephrology. We cannot be specialists in every of these specialties. So we must choose the knowledge from these specialties which will be useful and necessary for the people involved in transplantation and in the treatment of transplant patients. Second, I think they are very good, these practical courses. Maybe we should also establish some and divide between us some theoretical courses which could be done online or anyway, which cover the pediatric transplantation field. So we could also, and after such courses, it could be some kind of the verification of knowledge, etc. And by finishing all this established certain number of trainings and courses, we could finalize such a fellowship by some certification of pediatric transplant specialists.
About the length of the weeks that I propose, do you think this is well balanced, or do you think that this is something that we need to change? I mean, in the
if you could go back with the slides, if you could just explain what do you? I mean, you mean that every fellow should go through all this program, yes? Going through liver, kidney, lung, heart, and small bowel, yes?
Yes, but as I say, we need to be flexible. Probably, for me, probably liver and kidney would be mandatory. They have to cover these weeks of this type of transplantation, as most centers are doing pediatric transplantation, doing both. And for the rest, we could be flexible. It could be optional or something, lung, heart, and small bowel. Because of the number of, and because other people, other specialists sometimes do this type of transplant across Europe. So this could be something optional.
What about the people who are involved in thoracic organ transplantation in children? I mean, we should be flexible, because for them, spending 35 weeks in liver transplantation doesn't make too much sense, probably. So maybe we should differentiate it a little bit, depending on the thoracic or abdominal organ transplants. I mean,
yes, of course.
Just to the opposite, you know.
Yes, of course. And yeah, the other thing, of course, is the financial part. This is the most difficult part, and I don't think that any center is willing to cover the full expenses of having your fellow going to Paris or Poland or whatever. But if we can do it, this is what we are going to ask the European Union the next budget to co-financiate this fellowship. I know this is the most difficult thing, but if we need to advance, we have to ask the European Union. And I don't know if, Miguel, you are aware when we are going to ask for the next budget, but I think it's the next year. Is that right?
Sorry, I cannot guarantee it, since you know that money topics are is Anna who's more aware of them. But I believe that since we are now in the Bridge Grant project that ends this August, we should be just around about preparing for the next proposal. So we expect to have the next project by May or June, then to present the proposal actually.
I think that this exchange program, if it could be recovered or renovated, established a new one, would be very good for this kind of fellowships.
As I said, I cannot promise anything in terms of money, but I suppose it could be discussed whether to allocate a number of resources for the education and training work package, and that money could be used for whichever activities are decided.
And I think that we should also establish some kind of criteria for the people who are going into this process to make sure these people will work in the future in the field of transplantation. So I think this would be the kind of responsibility of the center to send the people who are already at some point involved and who are willing to work in the future in this field.
Yeah, so it's a very good point. We really need the criteria. You're right. I see that we have some hands in the screen. I think that at
Yes,
least
so Dr. Awan had his hand raised, so please feel free to unmute yourself.
Great. Can you hear me?
yes.
It's great and inspirational idea to actually have. I suppose this relates to surgeons only, because I'm a pediatric nephrologist and I had 3 years of training in pediatric nephrology before I could be accredited for nephrology. And during that program, I would have seen a lot of transplants. And I've more than 25 years, 24 years as consultant now. And we've seen more than 300 transplants in that lifetime. To actually, I'm not clear, are you trying to train the pediatric surgeons to be nephrologists as well by doing the IPNA? I'm the fellow of the European Society of Pediatric Nephrology as well. And I know about the exam and the questions and the training, and it's sort of an exit exam, but it's not essential. And there's a lot more to do than just transplant and dialysis in that particular program. So I'm not sure what the intent is here in terms of training particular person who's going to be, perfectly, fluent in pediatric nephrology and all aspects of pediatrics and pediatric nephrology. So I'm not entirely clear what this fellow is. Are they going to replace pediatric nephrology and be responsible for any kidney transplants, pediatric kidney transplants, and not have the pediatric nephrology team involved in it? Or because we exist in an environment where all our transplant surgeons are adult transplant surgeons, and they've done a remarkable job in Dublin, and we work as a team. So, they're at the end of the phone if there is any problem, surgical, requirement or whatever. But, we nephrologists look after them in ICU, look after them in wards and follow-up and everything else. So my question is, what sort of, why? I mean, I can't look after liver transplants, only solely liver transplants, and I can't look after bowel transplants. I can look after combined transplants, but there's special. There is a lot of time required to gain that confidence and be be as part of a team. This sounds like that one person is going to look after everything. Thank you.
Yeah, do you want to answer, Dr. Kalisinski, or?
No, I mean, as we discussed previously, we are not going to replace anybody. I think that's always will be and is a teamwork in various organizational systems, because we work in different systems in different centers, but it's always a team. The idea, as I understand it, was to independently on the basic specialty. It is not for you. You are very experienced. It is not for me or Paco, but it's for young people who are starting, or if they are beginners in the field of pediatric transplantation, to that they should. It's my opinion, at least, that everybody should have some basic knowledge about the transplantation and pediatric transplantation, the problems of pediatric transplantation, which are multidisciplinary. It's infectious diseases, it's nephrology, it's hepatology, it's a surgery. When we work in a team and we understand each other, and the young people have the more this basic knowledge, they are just better in a teamwork, because they are partners. So of course it will not replace, as I told earlier, nephrology specialty, surgery specialty, etc. It's just interdisciplinary knowledge, without which, I mean, within the team, we will not communicate very good.
I would just add something. This last week we had a presentation of a PTLD in a patient with a small bowel transplantation, and the physician doing the presentation was Timo. I don't remember properly the surname, but the name was Timo, and he was a nephrologist, and he was taking care of this patient with a small bowel transplantation, because in his country there's no people doing small bowel transplantation. So he was somehow forced to act, as he said, as a transplant pediatrician, right? So I think it's a good idea if you have the opportunity as a young fellow to have some contact with the different types of transplantation. Mostly if you are a nephrologist, and everybody is going to look after you, to take care of their patients. And it's the same in Spain. We have patients living abroad and outside Madrid, and people taking care of immunosuppression of small bowel transplantation are mostly nephrologists. So I think that even for them, it could be interesting. Mm-hmm.
So I think the surgeons, I agree that they need to have the basic understanding. My question was more related to the last slide you had about IPNA and the ESPN exams and stuff, because that is too much, because you need to have finished 3 years of pediatric nephrology fellowship before you can be accredited with that particular exam. So that's why my question was, I absolutely agree with both of you that we need to work as a team, and we also want the surgeons to work in a multidisciplinary environment, to have the basic understanding, so that when the complications arise, it's not alien to them, and they would have seen it or consult a medical complication or whatever to the respective nephrologist. No, that's the point I was trying to make. Sorry, I may not have been very clear first.
No, it's great to have this opinion. I think that Anna is going to add some comments, because she was the one proposing the model of this nephrology examination for our fellowship. So Anna, please.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Anna from Portugal, and what I understood from Francisco's presentation, his idea was only to give an example of a fellowship and an exam and what he would like to accomplish after this clinical pediatric transplantation specialty. Not to everyone, of course, or no one to perform that exam of ESPN, because that's for pediatric nephrologists, of course. But the idea was to have what Professor Kalisinski said, to have like a common trunk, a multidisciplinary course in clinical pediatric transplantation that could be useful for the surgeons, for the nephrologists, for the pathologists, and other people, even, for example, intensive care unit colleagues that are involved in pediatric transplantation. So as far as I could understand, this was the idea of Francisco. So to have a multidisciplinary course, not to replace anyone, but just to add some knowledge to especially the youngest people and the ones who are searching for some principles on transplantation, and that can be the same for several areas of pediatrics, if I understood well.
Yes, I'm sorry, because I thought that everybody was familiar with the discussion that we have in Porto. Actually, the last slides, I think it was presented by you, Anna, and of course it was a model for this fellowship, but it's not related to the fellowship. Okay, thank you. So any more comments or suggestions? Any young fellow is connected? Want to give us some feedback about the proposal? Because if young people is not interested in that, we have nothing to do.
Maybe there was an idea to make a survey about it. Maybe we should make a survey and ask our fellows if they are interested, our young associates, etc., and just ask them to fill this survey, and then we will know in every of our center.
Yeah, I think Miguel is working on it. I think it's almost finished. And
Yes, sorry, I was actually working on the survey. I intended to have it ready for today, but unfortunately it was not possible. But I hope we can finish it by this week.
So the idea is to send this survey to all centers and ask at least one person to reply and to fill in the survey. And if they are interested, even can suggest a team of experts that can be part of the fellowship, and also juniors or other colleagues that would like to begin and to start with this specialization, I think.
yes, of course, we have the same problem with all the surveys. The problem is to get in contact with the right person, with the very young people. So it's very important to tell the centers, Miguel, the representative in the centers, to spread this survey in the young people and potential fellows. Yes. Okay. So any more comments? And anybody that want to propose any course to, apart from the theoretical course that Dr. Kalisinski mentioned before? If you have any proposal, please send it to Miguel, and we will just launch it as TransplantChild course. Okay. So, anything else?
or maybe also you could maybe write to everybody a list with proposed courses and ask which center would like to prepare such a course or be responsible, maybe not prepare everything, but be responsible for preparing a course and inviting the experts. That would be some step forward.
Yeah, but which course do you mean? Like a general?
Any course. I mean,
okay.
The list of courses like was proposed or additional one, anybody could propose within the field, and maybe somebody would like to be responsible to prepare such a course and invite experts with lectures.
Mm-hmm.
Then we could already start slowly to prepare something. Okay.
We still have something that this should be material for another meeting probably. As Anna mentioned in Porto, we have to define the not only the time and the time that they have to spend for the fellowship, but also the syllabus for this fellowship. But I think this is something that we have to prepare in advance. This is not something to discuss in a meeting. We have to work on it. The people involved in the working group. We have to. I propose to start right now to work in this next step, and when we have some news, we can do a new meeting. Okay, but probably we have to work before by email or something between us. We are just a few, so it would be a lot of work. But Anna was so enthusiastic in Porto that I know that this is something that is going to work. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's start working with the syllabus, and we wait for the proposal for the particular course, and we will advance in the proposal for the European Union for the fellowship. Okay. So thank you very much. Have a nice.
Thank you.